Welcome back to my channel. We're going to analyze current events through the radical objectivist, agorist, and anarcho-capitalist lens. We're prioritizing individual rights, rational self-interest, voluntary exchange, private property, and the complete rejection of the coercive state monopoly on violence and war. Today, we're diving deep into Nick Fuentes' America's First episode, 1694, streamed around June 4th, 5th, 2026 on Rumble. Trump versus Netanyahu. Trump forces Israel into ceasefire with Lebanon. Fuentes delivers his signature long-form monologue of the latest Middle East escalation, de-escalation drama. We'll break it down section by section with timestamps, expand on his points, and apply consistent principles. No sacred tribes, no our team exceptions to the non-aggression principle, and markets over militaries. If you're new here, this isn't tribal cheerleading, it's truth-seeking. Let's get into it.
But more specifically, we're talking about the war in Iran, in Lebanon. And we've got some big developments about this, very exciting stuff. Finally, some things are happening. And the big news this week is that Trump had a brutal phone call with Netanyahu, screaming and yelling at him. Trump said to Netanyahu on Monday, "What the fuck is wrong with you? Are you crazy?" And it seems that Trump was so forceful that he compelled Bibi Netanyahu to make a ceasefire with Hezbollah in Lebanon, which may temporarily bring an end to the fighting between Israel and Hezbollah, which just might pave the way for a potential U.S.-Iran deal to end the conflict over the Persian Gulf. And we'll talk about all the details. We'll talk about why that is. As you may or may not know, Israel's conflict in Lebanon has become a major sticking point in U.S. negotiations with Iran. Iran is insistent that they will not open up the Strait of Hormuz until Israel stops invading and bombing Lebanon. And this is something that the United States has not been able to convince them to do. So among other things, we cannot agree with Iran on nuclear enrichment. We cannot agree with them on the terms under which the strait will be reopened. Maybe the more doable contention, is that Iran wants a ceasefire on all fronts, which is not just the U.S. bombing Iran, but also Israel bombing Lebanon. It seems like that might have just been achieved. Like I said, major row on Monday between Israel and the U.S., and it seems like that phone call was perhaps strong enough that Netanyahu has bent the knee, and as of Wednesday, a three-way announcement was made, a ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon.
Fuentes frames this as a rare moment where Trump personally pressures Netanyahu, reportedly with strong language, to stand down on Lebanon and Hezbollah operations that accept a ceasefire. He highlights reports of explicitives, tactical disagreements, and Trump prioritizing de-escalation over endless Israel operations. From an Ancap perspective, this is theater between two heads of rival state mafias negotiating turf and subsidies. States aren't rational actors with national interests. They're cartels extracting taxes to fund violence. U.S. taxpayers have subsidized Israel's defense for decades via aid, intelligence, and diplomatic cover. This distorts incentives. Israel faces lower costs for escalation, moral hazard, while American individuals bear the bill in blood, treasure, and blowback. Objectivism and RAND would condemn this as altruistic sacrifice. America, a polity of individuals, entangling itself in foreign tribal conflicts instead of pursuing rational self-interest, secure borders, free trade, were voluntary and non-intervention. RAND opposed the draft and Vietnam-style quagmires for exactly this reason. Agorists see opportunity in the chaos. Counter-economics thrives when states overextend. Crypto donations, which Fuentes promotes, and parallel institutions are steps towards starving the beast. His analysis correctly smells the lobby influence of APAC-style rent-seeking, but often veers into ethnic collectivism rather than pure public choice theory. Concentrated interests, contractors, ideologues, dual citizens, influencers capture policy predictably. Radical solution: privatized defense via competing agencies and insurance markets. No single America to drag into someone else's fight.
I'm spent. I can't do it. So I had to take a little pre-show nap, but I'm here. We're ready to go, and we're going to dive into it. We're going to get into our featured story tonight. We're going to talk all about the war in Iran and where to even begin. It's hard to say what is even happening here. We have effectively been in a stalemate with Iran for the past 8 weeks. And nobody really knows what is happening. What we are being told is that we are in a ceasefire with Iran because we are working out a deal. We are engaging Iran in diplomacy. There are bilateral negotiations between the United States and Iran. They're actually being mediated, they're indirect, through Pakistan and Qatar. However, it's hard to say if that is even true. This is what we are being told. And yet at the same time, it seems that every week there is this familiar cycle where the administration comes out and they say on Truth Social or in the press pool or in the Oval Office, they will tell us that Iran is begging us to make a deal. They have begged us for an extension of the ceasefire. They want to make a deal really badly. They're making major concessions, and that a deal is imminent. We have probably heard this no fewer than a dozen times since the war started. And then what inevitably happens is that within 24 to 48 hours, the Iranian side will come out publicly and say that everything the administration is saying is a lie. And Iran will come out and say, we are not talking to the United States. We don't want to talk to the United States. We don't want to make a deal. We can wait the United States out. We have all the time in the world, and we're not making any concessions. These are our demands, and they haven't changed at all. That's the second part. And then within days of this, the United States comes out. Trump in particular will say that he is finally done messing around, and the Iranians are not taking him seriously, and they're crazy, and they don't know what they're doing, and if they don't get their act together, then we're going to bomb them again. And this is a cycle. We have seen this basically every week for the past 8 to 9 weeks.
Fuentes argues the conflict risks becoming Iraq 2.0. Vague objectives, no victory conditions, Israeli actions undermining U.S. diplomacy with Iran, endless proxy fighting. He covers Hezbollah's role, past deals, and why de-escalation, even forced, exposes the failure of neoconservatism, adventurism. This is where Fuentes shines on patterns of blowback. Ancap agreement here, intrastate war and proxy conflicts are the ultimate violation of the NAP on massive scale. Initiated aggressive funded by coercion taxation. The military-industrial complex, Eisenhower warned, but its public choice inevitability profits regardless of outcomes. U.S. involvement in the region creates moral hazards and selection pressures for more extremism. Objectivist egoism demands clear, selfish criteria. Does this protect individual American lives and property better than non-intervention? History shows empire entangling alliances breeds enemies and bankruptcy. Agorism, gray black markets, successionist experiments, and tech drones, crypto private arbitration erode state monopolies on security. Why not competing defense firms offering tailored protection without collective national commitments? Fuentes' narrative sometimes substitutes Zionist control for emergent incentives. High-risk networks, evangelical voting blocs, shared strategic lobbies, empirical overrepresentation and influence, IQ plus culture plus history doesn't require conspiracy. Markets explain much. Judge individuals by merit and actions, not ancestry. Rand's individualism rejects the collectivism. The true radical fix isn't replacing one lobby with another, ethno-national one, but dismantling the state apparatus that makes lobbying profitable.
Will Israel ever allow Lebanon to take control over southern Lebanon? No. Israel does not want a ceasefire with Lebanon. Why not? Let's talk about what's happening in Lebanon. After Israel destroyed Hezbollah, the Lebanese government, which is separate from Hezbollah, the Lebanese parliament passed a law that says that Hezbollah must disarm. However, the Lebanese armed forces are not willing to disarm Hezbollah because they're not going to give up their weapons without a fight. Why not? Because Hezbollah says, we are the only ones standing in the way of Israel invading Lebanon. We're the only ones standing in the way of Israel annexing the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. And by the way, Lebanon is not even a real country. There's about 5 different factions. There's Christians and there's all kinds of other groups in there. And the Hezbollah militants are loyal to Iran. They're Shiites. So the Lebanese parliament, under pressure from France, the United States, and Israel, passes a law saying we have to disarm Hezbollah. But they won't do it. They refuse. So Israel says to Washington, hey, when is Hezbollah going to disarm? They say to Beirut, when are you going to disarm Hezbollah? Israel starts to give them an ultimatum. They say, if the Lebanese armed forces don't disarm Hezbollah, we're going to go in and do it ourselves. Israel wants the smoke. They want the war. Why? Because it's not really about defeating Hezbollah. It's about taking that territory so that nobody can ever threaten Israel on their northern border again. So when they create the ceasefire and Israel says, well, if Hezbollah doesn't attack us, and as long as Lebanon controls the airspace in southern Lebanon, then we won't attack Lebanon anymore. Well, that's not really what they want.
Fuentes connects this to systemic issues: foreign lobbies distorting policy, neocons pushing endless wars, Trump's compromises, and the need for genuine American first, which he sees as still insufficient. Strong overlap here. The state plus concentrated interest equals perpetual war machine. Anarcho-capitalism predicted this. Without voluntary funding, such adventures collapse. Agorists build counter-economics to withdraw consent. Objectivism, altruism's broad nation-building blank check alliances betrays rational self-interest. America First, as nationalism, still collectivizes better individuals first with voluntary communities deciding associations. Divergence, Fuentes' Christian traditionalism and identitarianism clash with reason-based autonomistic individualism. Voluntary covenants, private property discrimination are fine in Ancap. State-enforced ethic policies or theocracy is not. Culture, women rants in the stream often essentializes groups where objectivism demands judging rationality and productivity individually. Strategy angle, interest and parallel structures. Fuentes' advice have agorist merit, built outside the state, but ultimate goal must be abolition, not capture. Summary through the lens, Fuentes nails the cost of empire, lobby distortion, quagmire risks, valuable red pilling. But the collectivist frame, national, racial, religious, deviates from radical individualism. True path, consistent egoism, nap markets and everything, including defense. Starve the war machine via agorism. Build voluntary societies. What do you think? Drop comments below. Let's have a civil debate. Welcome here. Thank you for listening, and see you in the next video.